This is just reprehensible to me. And it seems to me to be super prima facie evidence of genocide. And I don't mean genocide in the way that we colloquially use genocide. I mean the legal definition of genocide, which is an act of genocide. That doesn't mean that you need to be successful. Mm-hmm. Okay. There is no attempted genocide in international law. There's genocide or an act of genocide or not an act of genocide. So in this, we have attempted murder as opposed to murder. You get a greater punishment for murder. But in international law, genocide includes acts that are meant to starve or deprive civilian population of water.
So the parts of that constitute genocide: killing members of the group, one part; B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group; C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part; D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group; or E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. So,
this is C. This is
destroying
C.
a water facility. That is about
no
destroying
military
value.
Yes. To a water facility. There is only a means in which to collectively punish people. Here is video that came from an Israeli soldier who did this.
Bragging.
He said, in honor of Shabbat, which is the Jewish Sabbath. Go ahead. Let's play this clip. Oh, pause it. We should also say it is... we're not going to play the audio because it's an Israeli song, although I don't know if it's probably ID, but apparently the lyrics of this song are all about how you're going to kill all the people in Gaza. This is the water facility, and you can see the Israeli soldiers planting the bombs. They have taken over the water facility, and here they are celebrating. You can see, I mean, there's not even people around, right? I mean, this is completely deserted.
Controlled demolition.
This is in, I guess, the west side of Khan Yunis, in the southern part of Gaza, and that's it.
There have been some terrorists swimming in there.
They blew it up. No indication as to whether or not there was a Hamas HQ underneath that building. There's been no claim as such by
Hamas
the
may
Israelis.
have clean water, so everybody else can't have clean water. Don't you understand? Yeah. Like it's getting less coverage because of the election. I think this is in part why Israel's ramping things up. Also trying to deliberately sabotage the ceasefire talks that they've never been earnestly interested in. But 30 at least killed in a strike on a school over the weekend by Israel in Gaza. And in that period where his campaign was falling apart and all the news coverage was about him dropping out, Israel struck, I think, 6 different schools where people were sheltering in 10 days. So the crimes, this is as bad as it ever has been. And Netanyahu is now just completely leaning into the fact that he's going to try to draw this out and try to get Trump elected. And at the end of the day, I think.
Well, and they don't have control. Like even if Bibi wanted to, like how much could they stop the society now that's storming like torture camps?
It has to be imposed from the outside.
Exactly.
But I mean, Ben Gvir tweeted after that speech that we played on Friday about Kamala Harris just shifting her rhetoric slightly in a way to indicate to people, as she's still vice president under an administration that is not, interested in diverging from its Zionism, she had a slight different rhetorical tone, and Ben Gvir and Netanyahu immediately jumped on it, said they were like outraged, and Ben Gvir tweeted, "There will be no truce, Madam Candidate." So this is, I think, both a way to keep themselves in power and signal to any future Harris administration that this is going to be an antagonistic relationship, which is why it's time for the Democrats, and half of the Democrats not showing up to Netanyahu's speech is a start, but they need to begin to distance themselves from Biden publicly on this policy, even if Harris is a little more hamstrung, because it's going to be it's a partisan issue, and it's time to treat it as such, especially with Netanyahu going to Mar-a-Lago and, him and Trump basically making out in front of everybody.
Humphrey distanced himself from LBJ on Vietnam in September. That was too late for him to do it. So we'll see what happens.
And the Gaza report with Sam Seder says his issue, this person's issue, is Jews want to kill all Muslims. Muslims want to kill all Jews. I don't care about Israel. This has been going on forever, blah, blah, blah. It's never going to change. I mean, this is, you could say that about every single dynamic that we talk about on this show. Maybe the details change. I mean, that's just a stupid, misinformed,
ahistorical
assertion. So I don't know what to tell you. And so if it's just a matter of the topic bores you, we put out almost 15 hours of content a week. Are you telling me that you're watching every 2.5 hours and that the whatever it is, the 10, 20 minutes, maybe we dedicate to this a day is just too much for you? I think you got to look inside yourself and say, why is this so triggering for you?
It's a skill issue.
This is a British doctor who Amir Shoaib, who was part of a British charity medical team in Gaza, and was apparently in a house where Israeli forces dropped a GPS-guided bomb.
I actually was the victim of a war crime myself, because the Israelis dropped a GPS-guided bomb on the house where a British charity medical team was staying. They had our GPS coordinates, they knew who we were, they knew who we were, they knew where we were every second of the day, because we coordinated with the IDF. So this was a deliberate attempt to assassinate the British medical team in order to dissuade any medical teams coming from abroad. My issue is this with Mr. Smith, is that I actually wrote to you after coming back from Gaza, and I explained what had happened, and I am appalled that you did not have the intellectual curiosity to follow up the letter that I wrote to you about the bombing and about the fact that this was unequivocal evidence of a war crime. How am I going to trust you as an MP if, as a lifelong Labour Party member, as a disagreeing constituent, and as a British citizen, you can't advocate for me in Parliament when I write to you? So if I can't trust you about advocating for me as one of your constituents, how can I trust the Labour Party and you with any other matter, including the NHS?
This is fascinating, because we've been hearing, at least for a week, that under Labour, Starmer and the government is considering stopping arms to Israel. They've already refunded UNRWA. The United States is the last major funder of UNRWA to hold out, or at least the UK announced that they're doing it. I'm not sure if it's taken place yet. But it's a bit of a different situation, because in the UK...
They've dropped their
criticism of the ICC.
Or, essentially their official sort of renunciation of the seeking of war crime
right.
warrants.
And in the UK, they have a larger Muslim population than here in the United States. Again, it's not just Muslims or Arab people or Palestinians in this country that care about Gaza. It's a huge chunk of young people, the left, etc. But Labour won, but it was a fairly unimpressive victory, and a lot of Muslim voters voted for other candidates, independents, and other parties, Green parties, in the last election for the UK.
Corbyn, among others, ran as complete independents after they'd been purged out of the Labour Party specifically for criticizing Israel.
So the Starmer may have to show responsiveness for his own political skin, and that might be a part of it. But that also is what gives me some hope that there's a way that the Democrats can actually show responsiveness with a new administration and change course on Gaza, because this is not tenable. And there's a large chunk of the base that wants an entirely different course on this. When you don't have a Zionist in office who is mentally declining and seemingly reflexively anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian, vetoing kind of like not vetoing literally, but axing any kind of changing course as it relates to Gaza as president, someone who's just behaving rationally for their own skin, like someone like Kamala Harris being president, I think that creates an opportunity for there to be a shift in policy. It's insufficient. She's going to need to be pressured the entire time. But if Starmer sees it, I think that Democrats see it, including Nancy Pelosi, who herself, she's Speaker Emeritus, but holds a lot of water, as we've seen over the past few weeks in the Democratic Party. She carries a lot of water for them and knows where the party's going. And generally, I think she didn't go to Netanyahu's speech and put out a statement against him. So there is oxygen there, but it's a difficult balance, I think, for some Democrats, because Biden, they can't look like they're openly defying Biden. They're going to need to start to.
Some of them, I think, are just not going to be able to rewrite their software or update it in time. But let's just get at the answer from this guy here to this, I think, really eloquent question put to him by one of his constituents.
You have to make a choice in this situation. What is the most useful thing you can do to help resolve the situation in Gaza? I thought, and I still think, that the right thing for me to do is to remain in the front bench and to make the arguments that I've been talking about.
And you still didn't advocate for me as your constituents.
I'm sorry if I didn't advocate for you personally. I can't advocate for every single individual, but I think
That's your job.
I mean, I can't advocate for every individual who happens to be part of a charitable medical team that goes to Israel and has direct evidence of Israel basically committing a war crime. If I did that for every one of my constituents, I wouldn't have any time of the day.
Right.
Let me just read this paragraph from the Washington Post reporting on Netanyahu's visit. It's entitled "Netanyahu's Visit Revealed No Workable Plan for Peace," critics say. But, I don't know, 15, I can't count how many paragraphs down, 20 paragraphs down. Even as Biden administration officials insisted this week that they are close to securing a deal between Israel and Hamas, officials also quietly acknowledged that Netanyahu has continued to put demands on the table. In other words, he keeps moving the goalposts so that there is no deal ever.
But the Biden admin said if they think that he's playing for time, they will let us know about it. So
the incentives have been clear.
I'm standing by my phone.
Yeah, right. The incentives have been clear from the beginning. The incentives have been clear from the beginning for Netanyahu. He has to stay in power to avoid prosecution for him, like his corruption charges. He also is in power because he made a majority with the far-right nationalist and religious parties. Those were always who he was beholden to, not Benny Gantz doing some sort of dance. The conditions on October 6th, in terms of the way the government was constructed, are the same as they are today. So the Biden administration is either, wildly incompetent or just not really fully grasping the moment here.
They're delivering for the settlers over the people who want the war to be stopped for the hostages. It was a month into this that, I forget that spy's name, and all the right-wing Zionists were saying, hostage families need to shut up. We have a job to do. That was evident. That was in the news. It was in Haaretz. It was in, people know this. Biden administration must know this. They don't care.
Yeah, well, gosh, I hope the Democratic Party at least recognizes that this is untenable.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.